Tonight, ahead of the lifting of the embargo on political campaigns next week, all presidential candidates to sign two peace agreements on their activities in the run-up to the 2023 general elections. Despite the leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party, River State Governor Nyesom Wike rules out defecting from the party, vows to continue fighting for internal democracy. Inspector General of Police, Mr. Osman Al-Khalibaba, asks officers and men of the force to display professionalism and fairness during the 2023 elections. And 14 killed in fresh attack by suspected herdsmen on two local communities in Logo local government area of Benue State.
And on business news tonight, Federal Inland Revenue Service warns government agencies and ministries against contracting tax processes to consultants.
On sports news tonight, Roger Federer will team up with longtime rival Rafa Nadal for the final match of his glittering career at the Laver Cup on Friday.
Troops of the Nigerian army arrest suspected Boko Haram collaborators alleged to have withdrawn 14 million naira deposited by a terrorist financier.
And in international news from London, queues have sprung up along Russia's border as men attempt to leave the country amid a military call-up for the war in Ukraine.
As political parties prepare to kick off their campaigns from September the 20th, that's next week, the National Peace Committee has slated next Thursday for presidential candidates to sign an accord towards peaceful electioneering. The chairman of a committee, former head of state General Abdulsalam Abubakar, who was speaking after a meeting of a committee with INEC in Minna, the Niger State capital, said that later in January 2023, the candidates will sign another agreement to accept the outcome of the election. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, on his part said the commission is set for the election ahead of the lifting of the campaign embargo.
This time around, we are preparing to have two signing of the accord. One is for the presidential candidates, sometimes in January, to sign an accord that they will accept the result of the election if they feel it is free and fair. This time around, we are going to introduce the signing of another peace accord for the free and fair campaigning, so that there will be no campaign of calumny, and this will be done on next Thursday.
Remember, when we released the timetable and schedule of activities for the election, we identified 14 activities, beginning from the publication of notice for the election to the election day proper. And so far, we have successfully implemented 8 out of the 14 activities. So we are good to go.
And as part of efforts to deepen the nation's democracy, a former Senate President, Senator Ayim Pius Ayim, is advocating a people-centered government. The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation says Nigerians must rise to the occasion by electing leaders devoid of regional sentiments. Senator Ayim, who was speaking at a forum organized by the Kogi State chapter of the People's Democratic Party in Abuja, appealed to Nigerians to work towards building a country based on equity, equality, and justice for all.
Strengthening party structure ahead of the 2023 general elections is the focus of this special retreat organized by the Kogi State chapter of the People's Democratic Party. The Kogi State chairman of the party vows to lead the party to victory in 2023.
I want all of you at all levels to count on the state ESCO and these great stakeholders that we shall leave no stone untouched to make sure victory comes our way. Because by the special grace of God, PDP is going to empower people in Kogi State. Amen.
In his presentation, a former Senate president believes it's time for a people-oriented government which will be based on equity, equality, and justice.
Returning power to the people is the only way we can deepen democracy, guarantee peace, and unity and facilitate development in our country. This topic, therefore, should be our collective goal as a people, as a political party, and as a country.
For the former governors of Kogi and Kaduna states, reclaiming political power requires unity of purpose.
Now, if we want to win the next election, we must fight for it. So we understand that power is not going to be handed over to us, particularly in Kogi State. We have to come together, we have to fight and take the power.
How we get the structures in place determines their efficiency. The Senate President mentioned the history of the G34. Of course, the party that sprung up at the inception was a very powerful party. The structures were powerful because they came to be not by powers or influence of one man, but by a collection of men and women desirous of putting a powerful party that could win elections.
The meeting then moves into a technical session where the officials are hoping to come up with strategies to reclaim power in Kogi State and the presidency in 2023.
The chairman of the People's Democratic Party Board of Trustees, Senator Adolphus Wabara, continues his efforts to resolve the internal wrangling ahead of the party's Presidential Campaign Council inauguration later this month. Speaking after a meeting with the Sokoto State Governor, Mr. Wabara said that the committee has been visiting some governors in the party as part of the reconciliation. On his part, Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who has just taken over leadership of the Nigeria Governors Forum, believes that the BOT will come up with a solution to the impasse. Governor Tambuwal replaces Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, who was last week elected as the president of the Forum of Regional and State Governments at an election that held in Morocco.
We need, everybody must come on board. So we are still moving around. In 6 days' time, the campaign council will be inaugurated. We hope and pray that before then, Nigeria and Nigerians will see a more united PDP. We are going to meet our national chairman of our party, who also meets our candidate, the principal. That's the board of these are the two people we think we should meet now. And we're also waiting on the vice presidential candidate, who will call on us anytime, either today, for us to meet, with him. So, we have virtually met with most of the governors, I don't want to mention names. We started from my state, my state, my governor, Ibazu. From there we drove to Enugu to meet with the Enugu State Governor. From there we took a flight to Oyo State to meet Makinde. We even met with we also met with our great friend Professor Jerry Gana. So we are really digging around, to find a lasting solution to this.
You said something about the Board of Trustees is the conscience of the party, and whenever there are issues of this nature, the Board of Trustees steps in as part of their function in the party, constitutionally speaking. And we've engaged with them, and I believe that what they are likely to come up with is going to be a solution to the problem we have. Rest assured that as governors of the party, we're also talking to ourselves on the way forward. And very soon the Governors Forum will meet, and we will also come up with what we feel should be the position and the way forward for the party.
Meanwhile, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike says, contrary to some expectations, he and his loyalists in Rivers State will not leave the People's Democratic Party, but remain to continue the fight for internal democracy. Governor Wike, who stated this during a meeting with stakeholders of the party from the 319 wards of the state at the Government House in Port Harcourt, said that retreating from a fight is a sign of weakness. The meeting was called to brief the party leaders on recent happenings in the PDP and intimate them of his planned media chat tomorrow at 10 a.m. to speak on the state of the PDP in the country.
We must tell Nigerians the truth. When we tell Nigerians the truth, it is for Nigerians to take a decision or whatever they want to do. Because in this part of our country, lies can become the truth. When you allow people to continue to lie, and you have refused to state your own part of the story, those lies will turn to be the true story. It is not about Wike. It's not about Wike. We have finished presidential primaries. It's over. There's nothing anybody can do about it. We have finished about the presidential candidate. It is over. There's nothing anybody can do about it. But something is important for the unity of this country, for the inclusivity of everybody. One thing is very, very key. And people are trying to, oh, it's not possible, oh, this and this, oh, why is Wike? It has to do with you. It has to do with your future. When you're not there, when decisions are being made, there's nothing you can do about it. And so from there, you must have to say, look, that's imbalance. Let's do it the way we have always done it. That is called everybody's accident. One thing I've always told people, if everybody is thinking, doing anything to think that will leave PDP,
Meanwhile, the federal government has been reacting to the economic blueprint recently unveiled by the PDP's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, describing it as a poor version of the present government's economic plan. This is coming from the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, who expressed shock that an opposition party that has on several occasions criticized its policies is currently adopting the same for its campaign. He was speaking at a news conference in Abuja where he maintained that the current government has made giant strides through its economic blueprint.
It's more shocking that an opposition has condemned all that this administration has done will turn around to weave its so-called economic blueprint around the same things that are currently being done by the same administration. This press conference, therefore, is aimed at exposing the hypocrisy, deceit, and emptiness inherent in the opposition that condemns an administration while also showcasing as now but a poor version of what is on ground today. Let's start with the infrastructure. The former vice president said in his economic blueprint, and I quote, rebuilding infrastructure and reducing infrastructure deficit would enhance the carrying capacity of the economy and unleash growth and wealth creation. End of quote. No one understands this better than the Buhari administration.
In part two, after the break, Labour Party to enlist the support of Nigerians for its presidential candidate Peter Obi as it urges citizens to join in rescuing the country. That's in a moment. Stay with us. back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Ahead of the lifting of the embargo on political campaigns next week, all presidential candidates to sign 2 peace agreements on their activities in the run-up to the 2023 general elections. But despite the leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike rules out defecting from the party, vows to continue fighting for internal democracy. Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali-Baba asks officers and men of the force to display professionalism and fairness during the elections. And queues spring up along Russia's border as men attempt to leave the country amid a military call-up for the war in Ukraine. Political economist Professor Pat Utomi has asked the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and the All Progressives Congress (APC) to apologize to Nigerians rather than campaigning to win another term in power. Professor Utomi was speaking in Lagos during the launch of a group collaboration for the candidate of the Labour Party. At the event, members of the group pledged support for the candidacy of Mr. Peter Obi and his vice, Yusuf Datti. The group says their promise of support is because of their confidence in the candidate to take Nigeria out of its present state.
What amazes me is that people in the APC and the PDP are actually campaigning. What they should be doing is having rallies of apology. You know, just have a rally to apologize to Nigerians. So you have a big rally, you say, we are sorry, we are sorry, we are sorry. We'll take a sabbatical for 10 years and then come back and try again. That's all they should be doing. But they have the courage to actually be talking about. It is tragedy for our country that people who should be prostrating and say, Nigerians, please forgive us, are actually saying, we want to preside over making a greater mess of the mess we have made. Thankfully, the spirit of Nigeria rose up in its young people. Now, the young people of Nigeria have shown a thing or two about commitment to a cause. But I can tell you, one of the small habits I developed growing up is to go to church every morning. There's somewhere here in VI that I go to. So I came out last week, I came out of Mass, and 2 old retired women came to me and said, these thing people are saying about young people and obedient, that they don't understand what people are talking about because they are not young people, but they are very obedient. The hand of God is on this mission. Nigeria will rise up again.
And elsewhere, former governor of Borno State, Alimadu Sheriff, was in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, today, where he held a closed-door meeting with former President Olusegun Obasanjo at his presidential library residence. Speaking shortly after the meeting, which lasted for over 40 minutes, the former governor said that his meeting with Chief Obasanjo was private. Attempts by reporters to get him to speak on the purpose of the visit did not yield any fruit, as it dodged all questions put to him, rather choosing to describe his host in glowing terms.
If Nigeria is a company, Baba is the chairman and chief executive of Nigeria. So I came for consultation with my dad and have a private chat. Okay, you are sure? No. Talking, I say, if you listen to me very carefully, my first statement is that I said, if Nigeria is a company, Baba is the chairman. So, from time to time, I am the younger one. I must come and greet my father, discuss with him privately, and go back.
Consultation over Nigerian project?
No. Oh, I didn't say that. No, I said it's a private visit. Private is private in any. 2023. Yes. My view is your view. What is your view? Your view
My view is your view. Whatever you think.
Your party.
Huh?
Your party.
Yes, my party is my party. I want my party to win.
And for more on the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Terry Kumi is sitting by, prepped and ready for more. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening, Coyote. Indeed ready for more, especially the 2023 general elections. As it draws closer, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, is asking officers and men of the force to stay neutral and be professional in their dealings with all parties and in accordance with the Electoral Act. He also warns that he will not tolerate any form of violence from any quarters. He was speaking during a strategic meeting with senior police officers in Abuja.
This is part of efforts by the police leadership to ensure a peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections, as senior officers have gathered at the conference hall of the Inspector General of Police at the force headquarters in Abuja. The meeting is to review the programs for the election as laid out by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and draw clear paths that will ensure a violent-free electoral process.
I assure all citizens and the international community of the optimal preparedness of the Nigeria Police Force to support the Independent National Electoral Commission in ensuring a peaceful electoral process that will manifest in a credible outcome of the 2023 general election. I, however, recognize that the police cannot achieve this alone. The understanding and support of all citizens, strategic political actors and the international community remain vital.
This has become pertinent in view of the insecurity issues in the country, as well as attacks on INEC facilities and the attacks on security operatives.
Beyond these agendas,
nevertheless, he warns troublemakers that the force will not tolerate any form of violence.
We must leave no citizen in doubt of our commitment to national peace and security, as well as our unwavering determination to advance the democratic and national security interests of our beloved nation. The 2023 general election, the processes leading to it will certainly put us to test in this regard. Any unauthorized quasi-security agent found to be engaging in any election or political activities stands the risk of being arrested and prosecuted along with their collaborators. Redirect your intelligence activities to monitor possible elements that might be attempting to threaten the electioneering campaign process. Promptly isolate them and frustrate their illegal and undemocratic intentions.
The police chief is urging Nigerians to be prepared to cast their votes without any fear of intimidation or harassment, as he reminds police officers to display professionalism while discharging their responsibilities.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has strongly condemned the grievous assault of a female police officer, Inspector Teju Moses, by her principal, who is a legal practitioner and human rights activist, Professor Zainab Duke Abiola, and her domestic staff comprising the housemaid, one Rebecca Enechido, and a male suspect currently at large. A statement by the force PRO Muyiwa Dejobi says Professor Duke, an Mbise-born activist, grievously assaulted her orderly in company of some accomplices on Tuesday, the 20th of September 2022 at her residence in Gariki, Abuja, due to the refusal of the orderly to breach professional ethics by carrying out menial and domestic chores at her house. The statement further says that Professor Duke, who name-drops the IGP, his family members, and other police officers in the top hierarchy of the force, has no acquaintance with the force in any form. The Inspector General of Police, who similarly ordered the withdrawal of all police personnel attached to the professor, expressed consternation at the fact that an individual who claims to be an advocate for human rights could stoop so low to violate the rights of another individual, a police officer, tasked with ensuring her protection. Now, 14 people are said to have been killed by suspected herdsmen in fresh attacks in Nchia and Mo communities in Benue State. Nchia is a settlement between Abeda and Ayin communities in Logo local government area in the north-central state. The special advisor to the governor on security matters, retired Colonel Paul Hamba, told journalists after a Security Council meeting in Makurdi, the state capital, that the attack occurred around 9 p.m. yesterday.
One of the villages that was attacked is Nchia village. in Mbagbe Council Ward. of local government. In the Imchia village, 12 persons were killed and 15 others were seriously injured. They were evacuated this morning to hospital where they are receiving treatment. At about the same time, another community, Mo community, in Tuareg Council Ward of the same local government, Lugo, was also attacked and 2 persons were killed. While the attack was on, I received a distress call from indigenous of the area, and we quickly informed the security agencies, men of 72 Special Forces Battalion, Operation White Stroke, the police, and the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps. They rushed to the area, these 2 communities, but by the time they arrived, the damage had already been done.
Still on security, the Nigerian military says its troops have traced 14 million naira deposited into a bank account by terrorist financier Alhaji Abubakar and have arrested 2 terrorist collaborators who tried to withdraw the fund. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Dan Madami, disclosed this during a bi-weekly media briefing at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja, where he says troops also neutralized 2 Boko Haram suspects and the Islamic State of West African Province commanders in Borno State. He says during the various operations conducted by the military across the northern part of the country, over 45 terrorists, including a notorious kingpin known as Babaru and a terrorist leader, Ibrahim Dangawo, alongside his members were neutralized. He says more than 150 civilians abducted were rescued, while over 368 terrorists and their families have surrendered to the military. Now, the Ondo State Governor, Olurotimi Akeredolu, is accusing the federal government of bias for allegedly granting a security outfit in Katsina State the right to bear arms, while same privilege has not been granted to a similar security network, Amotekun Corps, set up by state in the southwest. Governor Akeredolu's reaction follows what he describes as a viral video on social media, wherein the security outfit in Katsina was empowered to carry AK-47 rifles to tackle internal security challenges. The governor, who is the chairman of the Southern Governors Forum, in a statement explains that the said video showing the Katsina security outfit obtaining the approval to bear arms is fraught with great dangers. In his words, denying Amotekun the urgently needed right to legitimately bear arms is a repudiation of the basis of true federalism, which we have been clamoring for, end of quote. He, however, maintained that Ondo State government will defend its people. Still ahead on the news at 10, Federal Inland Revenue Service warns government agencies and ministries against contracting tax processes to consultants. That's on Business News. Please stay with us.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Over to the National Assembly now, where in spite of concerns raised by some lawmakers over what they describe as the proliferation of universities in the country, their colleagues in the House of Representatives declined to put a stop to the trend. During the second reading of a bill to establish the Federal University of Transportation, Daura, Katsina State, the lawmakers argued that despite concerns of funding, situating a university close to home is sometimes political and expected of them by their constituents. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Members of the House of Representatives consider for second reading a bill to establish the Federal University of Transportation, Daura, Katsina State. The university, which is supposed to commence operations later this year, was initiated by the former Minister of Transportation, Chibike Amechi. But some lawmakers argue that it is unnecessary at the moment.
Why are we now looking at establishing a Federal University of Technology? We can amend the enabling law, the enabling act, and upgrade the NITT to a federal university. Because why I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, is the constant proliferation of universities in our country is not helping us.
I still cannot fathom why executives should by fiat be establishing institution and later will not come to ask us to legalize it. We have slept continuously over our job, and we need a wake-up call, honestly speaking.
The Speaker puts the matter to vote and escalates the conversation on proliferation of universities in a bid to address the matter once and for all.
Those in support of this bill, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. We've been meeting with ASU. We had a 5-hour meeting with ASU a couple of days ago. What they said, which was uniformly agreed, was that this establishment of universities, I mean, even in their NUC, the NUC bill that is before us for amendment, they pleaded that, we curb is what they use.
You know how politicians behave, sir. Out home, when some people don't hear their own community mentioned, whether the bill will be signed or not signed, assented to, it is also a negative politically. One state in US where we have Harvard situated have over 300 universities.
Yeah, but those universities are not being funded by government.
They are not funded by government.
They are not being funded by government.
I agree, sir. They are not funded by government. It's about our policies.
When you go home and you are talking to your people, most often, first thing they ask you is, why are you not bringing any school to your constituency? And when you say it is not possible, and they watch and see other colleagues move same motion of a bill for the establishment, it becomes a negative for you as an individual who is representing them.
The arguments from members of the House draws to question their concerns, which have always played out during budget defense sessions and interactions with government agencies on cutting down the recurrent expenditure of the federal government. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Into health matters, in Gombe State, the Ministry of Health has declared a cholera outbreak after 10 people were confirmed dead from the disease across 5 local government areas, with more than 200 cases recorded so far. The Executive Secretary, Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Abdurrahman Shoaibu, explained that the state government has activated an immediate response plan for the prevention and management of cholera across 11 local government areas of the state. Elsewhere, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has flagged off the reconstruction of a road in Ukwa West local government area of Abia State, which links Abia and Akwa Ibom states. The NDDC Interim Administrator, Dr. Effiong Akwa, while speaking at the official flag-off and inspection of the road in company of some NDDC directors, assures that the road, which is 40% complete, will be delivered in record time.
For over 20 years, this 9-kilometer road in Ukwa West local government area of Abia State has been in deplorable condition. Its reconstruction by the Niger Delta Development Commission means a lot to indigents of the adjoining communities, as it will provide accessible road network and serve as a major bypass to Akwa Ibom State. When completed, the road will also serve as an alternative to the East-West Road.
My people are so much appreciative of what we are seeing, because it's taken some long time before now for us to see this type of thing.
With 3.8 kilometers of the road already completed and work progressing on the remaining 5.2 kilometers, the NDDC's interim administrator commends the youths of Ukwa West for their support, promising that the Commission would continue to execute projects that would enhance the living conditions in the Niger Delta communities.
Of course, you know what is happening in Southeast because of some challenges or some things like that. Obviously, you don't have work during Friday, Saturday, up to Mondays, and people just relax at home. But the youths did so well because I'm sure because this road had been a source of concern for them, so they had to cooperate with the contractor. The youth had to allow contractor even on Saturdays, on Mondays, to even visit the project site and take some, do some supervision and do some work. That is why you can see the huge progress that has been made.
For the residents, this road will boost economic activities and reduce insecurity.
It will help us to get to a nearby community. If we want to invest, it will help the investors to come in so that things will be easy for the people. It will also make us to be reasonable.
Logistically, it's going to help us a lot to move our farm product to the market, to locate Aba and the nearby villages.
The project, which was awarded in April 2022, is expected to be completed in 12 months.
And now to an update on the ASUU strike. It's been over 24 hours now, and most federal universities are yet to comply with a court order asking lecturers to suspend their industrial action while the Academic Staff Union of Universities negotiates with the federal government. From Zamfara to Rivers and other parts of the country, lecturers say they're still waiting for a directive from the national body before returning to the classrooms.
24 hours after the National Industrial Court asked the Academic Staff Union of Universities to suspend their strike, academic activities are yet to resume in some of the nation's ivory towers. The scene in some of the universities visited by our crew across the country is indicative of what has been in the past 7 months. This is because the lecturers are waiting for further directives.
We are waiting for our leaders to talk to us, but the good thing about this thing is that the judiciary is a system which allows everyone that is agreed with any judgment to appeal or to agree with the judgment. So for now, we are studying the judgment, and then if it warrants for us to appeal, we are going to appeal it. And if we are going to abide by it, then we are going. But we have to study it through our lawyer, and then we get back to the public.
We've been advised not to discuss the court order as we are awaiting directives from the NEC, the National Executive Council. But the lecturers are not going back to classes, at least till the court order has been studied by our legal team and appropriate directives given.
If you force us to go back to class, what happens to the morale of the lecturers? So that approach of a force back to class will certainly not fly. It is better this situation comes out of court and the government reconcile, come to an agreement with the lecturers so that the lecturer can amicably return back to class. So I see it as not being possible to be forced or coerced back to go to the class.
Regardless of the impact of the ruling on their campuses, it comes as a relief to students.
We're happy that we're coming back to school. Yeah. We're actually very happy because for the past 7 months we've been at home, which everyone knows. So it's not really been easy. Others are going to school. We are trying to strive and all of that. But thank God that the strike is about to be resolved.
It's a no work, no pay thing, and you don't expect to receive salary after you've not worked for the past 7 months. I don't expect them to do that. Yeah, I stand with the government on that.
While ASUU is making plans to appeal the ruling, students are anxiously hoping they can return to the classrooms and continue their education.
Let's now bring you more on the news at 10. Teniola Oyetayo is here with the latest business stories.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Welcome to Business News. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has cautioned ministries, departments and agencies of government against the appointment of consultants and concessionaries to collect taxes due to the federal government or any of its agencies. In a public notice signed by its executive chairman, Mohammed Nami, the FIRS accused some MDAs of including tax administration functions in their agreement with consultants, adding that the action violates the law. Citing Section 68, subsection 2 of its Establishment Act, the FIRS highlighted that by law, it's the primary agency of the federal government of Nigeria responsible for the administration, assessment, collection, accounting and enforcement of taxes and levies due to the federal government or any of its agencies, except as may be authorized by the minister responsible for finance by regulation as approved by the National Assembly. The chairman of the Senate Committee on the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Smart Adeyemi, says owners of empty and abandoned properties within the FCT will pay property tax. Speaking at a meeting with members of the Senate Committee on FCT, Mr. Adeyemi says most of these buildings have become hideouts for criminal elements, and it will be in the best interest of the FCT administration to raise revenue from such properties to finance its operations.
We're going to look at how we can put a legislation in place. In this city, you have uncountable number of houses that have been completed. Nobody stays in these mansions. Nobody's asking questions. If the funding was sourced from banks, then those who have built them, we should be talking about the interest. If those who build houses in Abuja and they are abandoned, which pose security risk, it's open for kidnappers, hooligans, and the criminals as hideouts. All these issues, we are going to bring them to the front burners. If houses are completed in Abuja, we want to see how we can put legislation in place. Maybe we'll start taxing. You can start taking taxes if you are not using the houses and you are not allowing people to stay there because you want 1 billion naira in the month for a rent. All these things are things that are militating against patriotism, security of life and property of Nigerians.
And outside our shores, the Bank of England has raised interest rates from 1.75% to 2.25%, the highest level in 14 years. It's the bank's 7th rate rise in a row as it tries to tame soaring prices. The central bank had expected the economy to grow between July and September, but it now believes it will shrink by 0.1% and warns that the UK may already be in a recession. Inflation is currently at its highest rate in nearly 40 years, leaving many people facing hardship. The equities market extend losses as investors continue to take profit in big names. Will Ibong tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's yet another red day at the NGX. Today's 0.4% slide sent the market cap scuttling down by an additional 125 billion naira. The pullback is attributed to drops in some key sectors. Industrial goods, biggest culprit, with a 2.3% loss today, no thanks to Boa Cement, which fell by more than 6% today. Consumer goods also tumbled due to losses in Guinness and Cadbury. Investors are still selling off Cadbury as its share price dropped further. It lost 1 naira 25 kobo to close at 11 naira 75 kobo in today's trading session. However, we see green flags flying the activity chart as volume and value increase sharply by about 140 and 200% each, which is good news after yesterday's clip fall. It's the penultimate trading session and the bull remains caged. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibong. Back to you.
And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thank you, Teniola. On the foreign scene, Russia has begun implementing plans to call up reservists to fight in Ukraine, following an order by President Vladimir Putin. More than 1,000 people have been arrested at anti-war protests, and there's been increased traffic at Russian borders as draft-age men attempt to flee the country. Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Queues have sprung up along Russia's border as men attempt to leave the country amid a military call-up for the war in Ukraine. Mobile phone footage showed a large number of cars queuing to cross from Russia into Georgia on the day Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization in Russia. Traffic had also been seen surging at border crossings with Finland, with prices for air tickets from Moscow rocketing. One Russian man arriving at Istanbul airport said he had left partly over the Kremlin's decision.
So, partial mobilization is one of the reasons why I'm here. Very poor step, and seems to be that it can lead to lots of problems to lots of Russian citizens. I didn't believe that the next step will be a mobilization. And I feel that not really lots of Russian people want to fight and want to be mobilized and want to go to the army.
It comes as more than 1,000 people were detained across Russia at protests against the mobilization announcement. Demonstrations were shut down by police in Moscow and St. Petersburg and dozens of other cities across the country. President Vladimir Putin announced a partial military mobilization on Wednesday, which could see 300,000 people summoned to serve in the war. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia carried out an unexpected prisoner swap, the largest since the war began, involving almost 300 people, including 10 foreigners, and the commanders who led a prolonged Ukrainian defense of Mariupol earlier this year. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the swap, which involved help from Turkey and Saudi Arabia, had been under preparation for quite a long time and involved intense haggling. Under the terms of the deal, 215 Ukrainians, most of whom were captured after the fall of Mariupol, were released. In exchange, Ukraine returned 55 Russians and pro-Moscow Ukrainians, along with Viktor Medvedchuk, the leader of a banned pro-Russian party who was facing treason charges. Iran has staged a show of its military might in an annual parade commemorating the 1980 to 1988 Iran-Iraq War. The parade in Tehran saw thousands of troops marching and featured trucks bearing missiles, tanks, and a large sign reading "Down with USA" amid flames engulfing the US flag and the Statue of Liberty. A new surface-to-surface long-range missile named Rezvan was reportedly among the weapons on display. State media says the Rezvan is capable of hitting targets some 1,400 kilometers away. The parade marked the 42nd anniversary of Iran's invasion by its neighbor Iraq. Iraqi forces under Saddam Hussein attacked Iran on September the 22nd, 1980, in the wake of Iran's revolution the year before. The invasion started a prolonged conflict, which would last until 1988. A short-sighted Chinese worker who tended to his injured colleagues following a deadly earthquake and then got lost in the mountains has been rescued 17 days later. Gan Yu, an employee at Sichuan's Wandong hydro power plant, was found alive but injured by a local villager. Gan, who is severely short-sighted, had lost his glasses during the quake and struggled to navigate the mountainous terrain. Footage from China's state broadcaster showed a shaken-looking, gaunt Gan confirming his name and gingerly eating a snack offered by rescuers. He was taken to hospital where he is being monitored by medics. And finally, Hollywood's iconic sign is getting a massive paint job in time for its 100th anniversary year. Painting of the 9-letter sign, a world-famous symbol of the US movie industry, began earlier as the perfect colour was finally given the sign-off. The Hollywood sign was last painted 10 years ago and needs redoing roughly every decade.
We have swing stages that go up and down each letter. Each of these swing stages had to be brought down here piece by piece. We're on a hillside. It's probably a 45-degree angle. You got loose gravel. It's hard to walk on. So, you know, they had to bring each piece down here piece by piece, each piece of their equipment, assembled it. Then they got to do the whole thing over again when they're going from letter to letter.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Well, thanks, Simon. Up next is the exciting world of sports with Ayotune Balogun.
Many thanks, Kayode. Roger Federer will on Friday team up with long-time rival Rafa Nadal for the final match of his glittering career at the Laver Cup. Now, the 20-time Grand Slam champion will play doubles with the Spaniard, who has won 22 majors at the O2 Arena in London. Federer and Nadal, representing Team Europe, will face US players Francis Tiafoe and Jack Sock of Team World in the evening session.
Super excited to have them on our team, on my team, and not having to play against them on my last match. And of course, it's super special. Playing with Rafa feels really different, you know. Also, just walking out on court and having the chance to play with the likes of Rafa or Novak also in the past has been an amazing experience for me.
After all the amazing things that we shared together on and off court, be part of this historic moment, going to be something, amazing, unforgettable for me.
Well, Leicester City midfielder Wilfred Ndidi has been ruled out of the international friendly against Algeria with an unspecified injury and has left the team's camp for England. Well, Ndidi's withdrawal from next Tuesday's game is the latest in the long list of absentees following the earlier withdrawals of skipper Ahmed Musa, Samuel Chukwueze, Leon Balogun, Henry Onyekuru and Emmanuel Dennis. The Eagles have been intensifying preparations for the Desert Foxes in Constantine before heading to Oran for the game at the Stade Olympique. Manchester United has announced a net loss of £115.5 million for the 2021-22 season, even though revenues rose to £583 million as coronavirus restrictions eased. The financial year to June the 30th, 2022 also brought a 22% rise in debt and a 19% increase in wages. The 20-time English champions' net debt increased from £419.5 million in 2021 to £514.9 million. And England is seeking to get their first win in the UEFA Nations Group of Death when they travel to Milan to face European champions Italy on Friday. Manager Gareth Southgate and his team held a training session this evening at Burton-upon-Trent, where players performed a number of training exercises. The team finds itself with only 2 points from their first 4 games, currently bottom in a group that contains Italy and Germany, but seemingly miraculously topped by Hungary with 7 points in 4 matches. And that sports news is back to you, Kayode.
Well, great, Ayatunde. And the main news again. The chairman of the National Peace Committee, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, today said that all the presidential candidates will sign not 1 but 2 peace agreements in the run-up to the 2023 elections to ensure that the contest is rancor-free and a credible outcome accepted. Also today, despite the leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party, River State Governor Nyesom Wike ruled out defecting from the party and vowed to continue fighting for internal democracy. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikilu. Have a beautiful night.